Today's video is applying this Scotchlite 3M reflective brake caliper wrap, high thermal, resist the high temperatures of the calipers. And so what I'm starting with is I chalk the tires in the front, especially if you're pumping, you're using the floor jack from behind, you want to get the front of the tire there so it doesn't roll forward. But so I chalked both and one on the other side. Heating up the garage a little bit. I think it's supposed to be about 50 degrees. It's about close to that outside right now. I'm going up to 62 today, but it was 38 early this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and I found my center point for my jack. First thing I got to do actually before I do that is I got to loosen these lug nuts here. So I'll loosen the lug nuts on this back tire where I'll be working. And I'll jack it up, and then I'm going to use jack stands to lower it back down, and then take the rest of the tire off. Make sure you chalk your tires and put your parking brake on. That's actually the first step I did, was put the parking brake on. Chalk the tires, parking brake, set out your stands, loosen your lug nuts, one full turn I think, loose before you, and leave the tire on until you get it elevated, and then center jack I'm going to let down. I'm going to let it rest on the jack stands. So to get the lug nuts off, one way you can do is you can just kind of stand on it, which is not easy. There, got it. And then one full turn, and I'll loosen the rest of them. Right up on the jack stands now. Make sure if you get a floor jack like this, you get one that's rated for your car. This thing's huge, and the first one I had only went to like 13 inches. This thing takes around 20-inch floor jack. 3.5 ton. This car's about 4,500. So it can handle it. You don't have to do the full tonnage of your car for the floor jack because you're not going to have the entire car elevated on it, but it's probably a good idea to overshoot it than undershoot it. The weak floor jack I had before would kind of, when it's all the way up the top, start to leak out a little air. But anyway, it's off the floor jack. The floor jack's set under there, slightly under, but the pressure's all on the jack stands right now. So supplies, learned a few things. So here's my brake caliper that I'm doing. It's got a small skinny piece, which is a little difficult, and then a big piece there. So you need gloves. Keep your hands from getting too oily, especially when you're cleaning. I find it getting away when I'm spreading the vinyl. This monkey squeegee, whatever, hardly ever use it. There's just not enough flat spots there to use it, I guess. This tool though, I use all the time, especially this end here, to get to little crevices and flatten them down and spread them out. And occasionally this part too. So this is key. You gotta have it. It comes in a kit with I think it came with a degreaser. It came in there with a kit with all these other little parts here. Even got a knife. You gotta have this. Cut it. Pop the blade frequently because you're cutting along the metal, which you're gonna dull it. So you get a little pair of pliers to pop the blade off there. Sealer is a problem because edge sealer. Most of these videos, I don't see anybody ever put an edge sealer on there. People recommend the 3M product 3950, but that's only rated to 150 degrees, so I think they're using that for the edge sealing on vinyl wraps on other parts of the car, not the calipers, which can get up, 400 to 450 degrees. So this thing's rated to 600 degrees. It just doesn't stick or spread on. It's a gasket sealer. It just doesn't want to stick to the vinyl, doesn't stick to the metal brake caliper. I'm still spreading it along the edges and hoping that it does some sealing. You'll need a pair of scissors, a paintbrush to paint on the edge sealer at the end, and wire brush and nylon brush for cleaning. Alcohol, at least 70% alcohol or more. If you can get more than 70, that's even great. I got some tape to tape off the parts around it, like this part, so I don't get any dirt or dust on when I'm spreading my 3M reflective tape. I'm tape off down in here too, just so I don't touch it by accident. But I'm going to clean it first, and then I'll tape up around it. Not a big tape job, but just enough to kind of keep from catching dust and dirt on the other parts of the when you stretch the tape. Oh, I also need a heat gun. I forgot to tell you about that. I haven't got that out yet. Solo cup does more than plays pong beer. It holds lug nuts. Trash, little trash thing. Throw it in. And get my light up here again. I'm trying to get good light in this area. Okay, so how did I clean this thing? Took a dry paper towel, got the big dirt off, then a really wet paper towels a couple times over. Started to use a little bit of a nylon brush at that time to get some of the bigger dirt off. Then Went to degreaser, and degreaser says wait 60 seconds after each application. Did that about 3 times. I did tape up all the rubber. I don't want to get any degreaser alcohol in the rubber parts, and the other parts are just taped so I don't get the dust onto my film. So then after the degreaser, about 3 coats, 3 separate times, going in there and brushing it a lot with the brushes and trying to get in all the nooks and crannies. Then I took alcohol, just took linen rags and no more paper towels at that point, and just used it, stuck it in the end of the can, and just wiped it down with that a couple of times again. You don't need to remove the alcohol. It evaporates within a few minutes. Usually 2 or 3 minutes, it's gone. There's nothing after that as far as cleaning that you need to do. The cost of this is a floor jack over there. You can get a good one. This is a 3.5 ton with about a 19.5 reach for about $140 on Amazon as of November 2025. You can need some jack stands. I've already got a heat gun, but that could be a cost too for you. You don't want to overheat too much, but we'll talk about that later. So it's kind of prepped now. I'm not going to put the film all the way back or on the undersides because you're not going to see that. So, you know, I usually go about this. Well, the top, you'll be looking down at the tire. I'll probably go a little further back, but on this side, maybe halfway down here is what I did on the other caliper. I might have gone all the way to the edge, right around here. Some potential problems are going to be these indentations because there's going to be air bubbles in there and that could cause it to fail. The ones I did see fail online seem like this corner and this corner is where they first started to crack. I don't know if it wasn't cleaned or if it was just air bubbles in there, or if it was just higher heat or something. So I'm getting ready to wrap. Just let this dry off a little bit from all the alcohol applications. I do it piecewise, and I started out with this round piece here. Wish I got it lined up a little closer to the inner edge. I wouldn't have to cut it. It's always going to be a problem right in this area where you stretch, but if you leave just a little bit, it stretches a little easier. I'm going to trim it off here, and then I'm going to overlap with the front piece. You always want to do the side pieces first, and then overlap around them so the seam's facing the back. If you saw the little bitty seam, you'd have to look from behind to see the little edge. If you look in the front, it's not going to be as easy to see. So you do the front here and the front here last. Do these other areas on top first, and then do the front and curl it around. So I'm putting this piece in here first. I'm going to trim it right along the edge here. I'm going to get too close to the edge. I'm going to leave a little overlap over here. As long as there's no wrinkles, I'm going to have to cut back. Because I remember one time I saw there was a little piece of caliper showing through, and when I overlapped and cut back on it, there was a little gap in there which I patched. You can patch. I like to do it in lots of pieces. You can't really tell once it's done. The seams actually blend pretty well with this. So I do use to press it in as much as you can before you use the heat. Now I use the heat just so it sets in. Now I'm gonna take my knife, my blade, and go ahead and trim around the edges, including the front. I'm not going to do the fronts here. I'm going to do that with a separate piece. Do a piece over the top there, probably a piece along the bottom, then the front piece will be separate, one big front piece. I found this little cavity in here I didn't know was there, so I had to cut out around that. And, you know, there's little edges showing. This is not going to matter. This front edge doesn't have to be perfect because the front here is going to wrap around it over the top of it. So I just trimmed it up, set it with the heat, and did the best I can. And you know, if you're looking from above, you're not going to see that much. I mean, nobody's going to expect it that much. Mainly with the reflection off the front. That's what you really want with this tape, the front flat surface and maybe a little bit of the back there. That's the important parts. Second piece is on, so you can see I'm kind of piecemealing it until I get the front sides and wrap them around again so the seam spacing, you would have to look from behind to catch the little seam. And so, you know, I'm taking the X-Acto knife and run along edges afterwards, you know, kind of push against the edge and cut down, just barely overlap down here. Even if I missed a little bit, it wouldn't be that big a deal. So I've heat sealed that in there. Don't overdo the heat again, but make sure you get all the edges down. I used my little tool to kind of help push down in areas that I can't reach very well. I'm sorry, like this, and even down in here. This tool comes in great, a very handy thing. I even used it to kind of do my edge along here to flatten it down. So I'm piecemealing it together, but again, you won't be able to tell once it's, unless you're like up close, really close to it looking. But standing next to the car normally, you won't be able to see the seams. So this bottom piece, which isn't going to be seen very well, except maybe straight on a little reflection, I should have saved that for later so it can wrap around the edge and the seam painting toward the back. So again, this front surface I should really save till later. I'm gonna do the side now so I don't get ahead of myself on doing these other pieces like that so it can wrap around there. So update, I'm still just piecemealing it away. Down in here I got some little air bubbles. I had to put a couple little slits in there. You can't really see them very well. So, you know, you're mainly gonna see my bob and straight on. So I'm just trying to fit like pieces I already have. Just kind of skimping on using the pieces in here to do it. So again, I want to get this side, the outer side first, because then I wrap around a little bit so the seam's facing the back, so you won't be able to, if it be it from behind, you see a little thin ridge. Maybe the seams are really pretty tiny. I'm not sure you could see them anyway, even if they were facing forward. Ready to put this front piece on. I cut this notch out, just kind of guessing where it's at, give it a little overlap. It's pretty close, actually. I cut it a few times. That relieves a little bit of tension when you're trying to curl things in there, so I just found that that helps a little bit. Actually, it's pretty close where it's just going to be a little overlapping. Don't want to overdo it though, you waste a piece, though I'll still have left over. Along, I'm getting ready to put this last piece on here. At first I wasn't going to do this piece here, but I saw that it kind of curves up, so when the other headlights of the cars are cutting in, it's might catch that, so get a little more reflection. I had to make a couple relief cuts again at the corners just to stretch it tight across here. This is not going to show on the sides with the tire being on. It's so far back. Normally I don't go that far back, but it's because it was curving up like that. I guess where I'm caught, it might catch some reflection. So it's coming along. Yeah, there's little patches here and there, but it's not that's not a big deal with the tire on. And I even used a, if you look real close, see that little patch there above there where I cut out the hole too big, but if you get further back, you're not gonna see those seams. What I've done for this last piece is I cut kind of out around. I'm gonna start with the flat edge, the straight edge back here, and then wrap it around, and I cut out this inside so it's not coming across and catching on here. So this is one of the principles that you start in the middle here and go up, because you got this ridge and it's going to take up space. Again, I anchored it on this side over here a little bit back from the drum, and then you want to work from this middle up past the ridge, because otherwise you'll end up with the air pocket. So you always work from the middle out both directions.